Today I'm answering 5 questions for Zamonos. So one thing that you might not know about me if you just watch my vlog is that I'm not necessarily interested in visiting everywhere. A lot of people with travel vlogs, that's kind of their interest. And I don't necessarily have it on my to-do list to visit like all 50 US states just to say I did it. I think it's a cool goal. Like if you have someone else like driving in the RV and you have plenty of like time to do that. But I'm just more about like enjoying as much as possible where I'm going. So I don't necessarily have the urge to go to a place where I'm like testing the limits of what I've done traveling so far. One of the funniest things that someone has said after viewing my work is when they recognize me in person. So I will say I don't have a ton of followers. So both times someone has recognized me has been at like a rare disease conference or something else in the disability and rare disease space. So it's definitely in my niche, but it definitely caught me off guard when someone said like, oh, do you make content online? You look familiar. And I just wasn't expecting anyone to recognize me, and that was within the first year of posting content. When I think about travel for disabled people, what excites me the most right now is large brands getting on board with accessibility, with them realizing this isn't a niche topic and that it is a large portion of the population. So, you know, when I'm seeing Delta making a prototype for wheelchairs staying in place on an airplane, that's something that's exciting to me. Newer cruise ships like Disney's and Royal Caribbean's having their accessible rooms have buttons where you can get out of the room with a powered door. Things like that are all like just smart design choices and ones that aren't really that hard or expensive, but it takes sometimes large brands to lead the way. But even smaller brands like Morgan's Wonderland in Texas, they're setting out to create an ultra accessible hotel. So I'm really excited for this to open because I'm really hoping that gets a lot of people talking in the hospitality space. Something that I've gotten unexpectedly good at through traveling is one, like when I travel, it's a good reset for me to keep going with the flow, because when you're traveling, you don't have time to kind of spend all day harping on one thing. And as a detail-oriented person, that's always like a good reminder to zoom out, and traveling kind of allows things to keep moving. And another thing is, I think over time, my accessibility reviews that I do in my vlogs have gotten a bit better when I've started noticing patterns across hotels. Like, you know, for instance, one thing that always gets on my nerves is when the roll-in shower at a hotel has the shampoo at the opposite end of the shower from the bench. And, you know, the more you travel, the more you realize this isn't a one-time mistake. This is actually a pattern. And then when you start noticing these patterns, you're able to speak about it in public places with people that hopefully will start spreading the word to others, and things like that about simple changes that can be made to make things more accessible. If my content had a warning label, I would probably say that it is, I give my opinion sometimes. Like my short form content tends to include more opinions than my long form content. My long form content is more like vlogs of places I go. So naturally, I'm not talking as much about topical or controversial topics. And I tend to think nothing I talk about should be controversial. But again, that's an opinion. My short form content does take angles in the disability advocacy space. I get trolls sometimes that do not like my opinions. And everyone is allowed to make an opinion. I don't censor my page. However, you know, if you don't want someone to talk about how disabled people should have rights and dignity and all of that, my page is probably not for you. And Also, my accessibility reviews, I try not to be ultra critical of small businesses and calling them out because they do have less resources than large brands to be accessible. However, I'm not going to like give a good review for a place if it's not accessible without clarifying that it's maybe I like the food, but I would clarify it's not accessible. So, I do keep it real when it comes to accessibility, but I try to show the positives as well. If a friend were on the fence about joining Zamonos.com, I would tell them like there's two ways to be involved. One, you can offer reviews of places, and the other is you can gain insights from reviews. So it's good to know there are two ways to use it. And it's good to know like one thing people may see when they see it is like, oh, there's so many different categories. But when giving a review, it's important to remember you don't have to give a rating for every single category. You can just go off of what you remember, what you notice, things like that, and hopefully other people will fill in the gaps with their reviews. And then it's just like a great resource for people to have when checking out a place and seeing whether it's accessible for you because it is so detail oriented. So I definitely would recommend just giving it a look and see if you can think of some new adventures by looking at the reviews that are currently on there. So I definitely recommend checking it out.